Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Introduction to App Development workshop. For this workshop, we're going to be learning the basics of how to use Swift and Xcode. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So the first thing that you want to do is once you have Xcode open, you want to click Create a new Xcode project. And then something like this should pop up, and we're going to be creating an app. So I'm going to click on App and then click Next. Okay, so now for the product name, I'm going to just name this like Girls ReCode Hacks Demo. Just because it's nothing special, we're just kind of introducing a couple concepts that you can do with Xcode. So I'm going to click Next. And what this does is once you create your initial project, or once you make a name for your project, which we just did here with the product name and made it an app, it's going to try and save it into a folder that you have. So kind of direct it to which folder you want it to save it to at this time. I already have a folder like called apps. And this is where I just save a lot of my apps that I would make. And then you're going to click create once you've found a location for you to save it into. So once you do that, once you kind of created the initial like project, you should get something like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to this file called main. And this shows you your like the screen for what elements you can put on your app. And this is like how you design your app. So I'm just going to start by throwing some like text, some images and buttons onto the screen. I'm going to click over here, this top right-ish corner. There's this plus button that I'm going to click on, and I'm going to drag and drop a label. I'm going to click it again, and this time I'm going to search for an image view and drag it and drop it onto the screen. And then finally, I'm just going to search for a button and drag and drop it into the screen. Yeah. So now I'm just going to design it, make it look like better. For this label, I'm just going to say like, welcome to this demo. And I'm going to change the font. If you go over here, this is all the settings for your text. So if you click on this little T button here, you're able to change the font. If you go to custom font, then it gives you a lot more fonts families that you can choose from. So I'm going to do like maybe Arial maybe. And I'm going to increase the size of this. And if you go here to color, you can change the color. So yeah, you can do a couple things with this. For anybody new here, I just created a new project. Basically all you have to do is when you, I'm just gonna X out of this really quickly. When you're taken to the initial front page, you're just gonna click on create a new Xcode project. You click on app, then you name your project, click create, and then it should take you to something that looks a little bit like this. And right now we're working on the main file where we just dragged in a couple elements. We dragged in a label, a button, and an image from this like app library or the element library, which you can get access to when you click on the plus button here. So once I've done that, I've kind of dragged and dropped these elements onto the screen. I'm just going through and customizing it again, like changing the font, changing the text, changing the color. If you want to center everything, you can. Maybe it might like look better. I'm going to change the button. I'm going to give it some a little bit more color. Let's see. Yeah, so you can kind of change the color of your buttons too, like I'm doing here. And for the title, I'm just going to say like click me instead and change the tint or the color, the label color, which is called tint here, to a different color. And then for the font, you can go yeah, you can just kind of play around with the elements and use it how you want, or like edit it how you want. So take a couple minutes to just kind of edit everything. If you want to create a background, you can. I think if you put in a view, a view, and you make it cover the entire thing, but then we'll drag it so it's under everything. And then you can change the color of the view, and it changes the color of the background. So yeah, so what I just did is I dragged and dropped a UI view from the app, from the element library, and then I made sure that it was under all the elements that I had already put on. Otherwise, like it would cover all the elements. And I went over to the place where you edit everything over here to the right, and I changed the background color to some custom color that you might like. Anyways. Yeah, just take some time to play around with that. So you come to a place where you like what you have on your view. Okay. So once you do that, once we have some things on the screen, let's start to actually kind of customize this and make this a functional kind of app. So I'm going to click on these lines over here to the top right corner. They're like 5 lines here. And I'm going to click on the assistant, and that pulls up the code for this storyboard. So I can, make it do things. I'm just going to hide that left bar so I have more space to work. And I'm going to, let's say I want my button to do something. I want it to be functional. So I'm going to click on this button. I'm going to drag and drop it underneath, not like before this end curly brace. Oh, hold on. And then I'm going to let go. And the name I'm going to say is like button clicked. And then for type, I'm going to say it's a UI button. And then I'm going to click connect. And that basically connects the button to your code so that you're able to, it basically makes a function for when your button is clicked, something should happen in your code. So let's say for now, like, let's just say when button is clicked, we're just going to print a simple statement like print, I was clicked, or something like that. And let's just test this out what we have right now. So I'm going to go up here to the top left of my screen, and you should see this like play button where you're able to like play your app or like test your app. And I'm just gonna click on that. And it says building, so it takes a little bit of time for it to build. And you should get a build succeeded. And it's loading. So we're just gonna wait for the simulator to come. Still launching. Sometimes your first run will take a little bit of time, so we'll just let it load. In the meantime, does anybody have any questions with what I did so far? Oh, okay. Here we are, it's still loading, so just give it some time. This is the launch screen, by the way. There's two screens. Oh, there it is. Okay. So when you run it, it just says, welcome to this demo. It doesn't have an image yet because we didn't set the image view to have an image. So that's why it's not showing up. But when you click me, if you look at your the console, it says I was clicked because I just clicked it 3 times. But every time you click it, it will do what you have said for it to, that you wanted it to do. Okay, so now let's make this like some sort of like fortune teller app. Let's say every time you click on the button, you want it to randomly display a message on the screen. So what I'm going to do is, first thing I'm going to do is drag and drop a label onto the screen. So I'm going to go back to this plus sign here and then drag and drop a label. But I don't want the label to show up when I haven't clicked the button yet. So we're going to initially want to hide the label. So, but first my code doesn't know what the label is because the label's on the design screen and not like in the code. So I need to make a variable for my label. So I'm going to right click on my label and then I'm going to drag and drop it like over here, right below where we say class view controller and right above this override function. And I'm going to give it a name as like output label and connect it. And that just made a variable for my label, basically just gave it a name so that later on in my code, I'm able to reference back to it. So I'm going to want to first have it hidden. So I'm going to say label.text or label.is hidden. I'm going to say is true. So this function right here is basically the function for I meant output label. This function right here, this override function view did load, is basically the function that talks about what do I want to happen right when the app loads. And right when the app loads, I don't want that label to be shown. I want it to be hidden. So that's why I put it right in there. But then when the button is clicked, I want the output label to be shown. So I'm going to say in this function, I'm going to say output label dot is hidden is false or equals false. Okay, so now I want to kind of customize what I want my label to be. So I'm going to make an array. And so I'm going to say let array, and I'm going to give it a couple different messages. I'm going to say you will get a surprise in the future. Good things will happen to you. Or like someone old will come back into your life, or things like that. But I'm basically just putting a bunch of messages in here into an array. And I've stored it into this keyword array, but you can name this whatever you want. And I want the output label to be the text of the output label to randomly choose from that array. So I'm going to say array dot random element. And what that does is it basically says, okay, so we're changing the output label and we're changing the text of the output label to a random element from the array. So now if we run our code, and I click on click me. Oh, well, there's an initial problem here. You can't see the entire thing, and that's pretty easily fixable. All I'm going to do is make this label bigger, center it, and then the number of lines here, I'm going to make it 0, because then that allows it to adjust to multiple lines when it needs to be adjusted to multiple lines. So let's rerun that. I'm gonna click on click me. And as I do that, you can see that it randomly chooses something from that array. So that's how you do that simple kind of task. We made a variable, we randomly selected something from that array variable. And now I'm going to teach you guys how you can do stuff with images. So first thing I want to do is I want to put an image onto my screen. So I'm going to use what is it called? appicon.co. And this kind of adjusts whatever image you want into either an app icon or into some different sizes of that'll be saved into an image set, so that your app can use the different sizes depending on which platform is being used, or like which type of phone is being used. So I'm gonna first find an image that I want. So I'm gonna say like magic ball picture. And I don't know, let's say I want, no, we'll just do this as my image. I'm going to save this image to my desktop or to my computer. And I'm just going to save this as that. Why can I not type? Hold on. I'm going to save this image as magic ball. And I'm just going to save it to my desktop for now. And then I'm going to go to appicongenerator.co. Did I put this in the chat? I don't remember. No, I did not. Here is that website that I'm talking about. And I'm going to drag and drop the image into this image set section. And you can do either 3x or 4x. It really does not matter. I'm just going to keep the settings that it already has, and you're going to click generate. And this generates a zip file of different sizes of the image that you just put in. And we're only doing iOS. So all you need to have are these 3 images. So once I generated my images, I'm going to go back to Xcode. And I'm going to go over here to this assets file. And this assets file is where you're going to be saving images, your icon, and all those types of things. So I'm going to drag and drop from my Finder these 3 images and drop it right here in this like assets area. And okay, so this is a problem that you might face depending on the type of like image you downloaded. But if your image, like when you drag and drop your image and it doesn't automatically kind of show the image, it's probably a problem with the type of file that you're working with. So I'm just going to go put this in the trash and try again with a different picture. I think it's because it's a weird type of file. Let me find like maybe a PNG or something. Yeah, let's do this one. I'm going to save this as magic ball. Yeah, and let's try this again. So I'm going to drag and drop it into image sets, and I'm going to hit generate. Click on the zip file, and then you only need to go to iOS. And I'm going to drag and drop it in this left-hand section over here. And once I do that, you can see that it automatically kind of compiles these 3 images into 1x, 2x, or 3x. So now that I have an image that's loaded up, I'm going to go back to my main storyboard, and I'm going to click on the image, and over here to the right-hand side, in the image section, I'm going to click the drop-down bar, and as you can see, the magic ball image should come up. When I click on it, it automatically changes the object to a magic ball. So that's how you kind of load images into your app. The next thing that I'm going to show you is how to create an app icon. So as you can see from the simulator, if I click on this home button here, the app doesn't have an icon yet. So you can kind of be artistic with this and play around with it. I like using Canva to make my app icons. So I just go to Canva and I click on create a design, and I just do like an Instagram post, like because I just want the square. And I just like using different elements that I can see. So like maybe playing around with some circles or text or things like that. So I drag in maybe a circle, maybe some color, maybe, you know, some of this text like fortune. And you can kind of keep playing around with that until you kind of make an app icon you like. But just for keeping it simple, I'm just going to say this is my app icon. You're going to click share, download it. And then you have your app icon, which you just designed. And so now I'm going to go back to app icon generator or appicon.co. And now instead of going to image sets, I'm going to click on app icon, and then I'm going to drag what I just downloaded. And I'm just going to unclick Android because there's no need for that. And click generate. So once I've done that, I'm going to click on this assets.xcassets. And what you can do is you're going to create 2 different Finder windows. One Finder window with the like thing you just downloaded, another Finder window to pull up your app that you just created, which I called demo. Wait, what is my app called? No, GRC hacks. Here it is. And then once you go into the demo app, you see that there's another or like the demo app folder inside your whatever folder you have made. You see that there should be a folder called assets.xcassets. And as you can see from what I just downloaded, there's also a folder called assets.xcassets. So what you're going to do is you're going to drag and drop it into there if you want, but that would also erase the image sets that you just loaded up. So instead, I would just go into this assets.xcassets folder and just drag and drop the app icon folder and drop it into here. And it's going to ask if you want to replace it, and I'm going to say, yeah, replace it. And now when you go back to your assets, you should see a new loaded, oh, oops, wrong one. Now when you go back to assets, you should see a new loaded app icon, which we have. So now if I run my code again, and if I click home, you see that there was an app icon for a second. I think it's just a glitch with the simulator, but the app icon exists in assets, so the app icon exists. But now also when you click me again, it does a random selection of different messages and the image loaded successfully. So yeah. So now you can do a couple other things with this. When you click on the button, if you want to change the text of welcome to this demo, you can do that. If you want to change the color of some things, you can do that. All you need to do is for any code when you're changing something, you just need to define what you're changing. So for me, I would be changing this label, but because we haven't already defined it or we haven't already set it as a variable into our code, I'm gonna have to do the same thing I did before and drag and drop it. I'm gonna say title as the name of this label. And I'm gonna say title dot text is, or text color is dot black or something. Oh, what is that? Oh, I think there's an error for when I drag and drop that into here. Let's try this again. Okay, sometimes Xcode can act a little glitchy. So I'm just going to ignore that. And instead of that text that we're changing, I'm just going to change the output label. Text color. And when you build it, it should run successfully. Oh, wait, this output text color is already black, so we're just going to do like purple or something. And when you run it, okay, yeah, there's something acting up with my Xcode. So we're just going to pause that. But theoretically, when you run it, it should run successfully. It's just something wrong with my Xcode project, or like the software right now. But it should be fine when you run it. Let me know if you guys get the same problem, because then it might be a problem with the code, but looking at the code, there's nothing wrong with it. This just happens often with my Xcode software. Okay, so last thing that we have to cover is something called constraints, which is basically how your elements look on your screen. So if I change the phone that I'm working on, the screen, to like a different type of iPhone, like say I put it this iPhone SE, you can see that obviously a lot of the elements are cut off. So in order to fix that, Apple has something called, or Swift and Xcode has something called constraints. So I'm just going to click on one of these elements and click on this button here, the boxes with the different types of like things around it. And I'm just going to set a couple constraints, which is basically saying how far it should be from a certain neighbor it has. So for this one, this constraint, it's basically saying it should be 172 points from the top of the screen. And this one is saying it should be 92 points from the edges of the screen. I'm just going to put those three on. And then for this one, I'm going to put similar types of constraints on there. And if there are any errors and saying that you have missing constraints, just add those in. And yeah. Okay. So now if you kind of look at it in different types of phones, it should be somewhat fixed. It should be somewhat similar. So as you can see, if I'm using different types of phones, like different iPhone Maxes, it's staying aligned except for this label one, which is just acting up, which I will fix. But everything else is acting in accordance. Okay. Anyways, yeah, that's how constraints work. So you just need to kind of play around with them to see that it works, or that the layout is stays constant with that throughout different types of phone screens that you kind of might use. But yeah, those are the basics of app development. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. If anybody wants me to go back and review something, that I can also do that as well. But yeah, those are the basics that I just wanted to teach you, how you can design some things, how you can put an image onto the screen. You could click a button, change the labels, things like that. Does anybody have any questions with that? No? Okay. Also, if you want to kind of learn more skills and learn more sorts of features that you can use with this, you can definitely just go on YouTube or look up some sort of features online. There are great tutorials out there to teach you specific ways to implement specific features and things like that. So yeah, that's it for this workshop.